It's difficult to wreck democracy when people hate you. So Noah Berlatsky of everythingishorrible.net has a great Substack post out this week. It's entitled Trump's Polls Make Stealing Elections Harder. It's difficult to wreck democracy when people hate you. Okay, I want to read some of it and then intersperse my thoughts, but obviously you should go subscribe. Trump is trying to steal, rig, or vitiate the 2026 midterms in November. He's suggested canceling elections. He said he wants to put elections under federal control so he can make sure that they're not free and fair. His allies have called for sending armed troops to polling places. That was Steve Bannon, who said that they're going to have ICE surround the polls, to target people who don't support Trump. We know that Trump has tried to overthrow elections in the past. He committed an insurrection on January 6th. We know he wants to do the same in the future. Many thoughtful commenters are telling us we should be alarmed, and they are correct. Democracy is under assault. It's also true, though, that Trump's schemes and authoritarian fantasies have, in many cases, already been undermined or vastly complicated by the fact that he is extremely unpopular. His approval just went under 39% in the new 50+1 tracker, the lowest level of his second term. Over the last week, the Republicans lost a Louisiana special in a deeply red district, a 37-point swing to the Democrats, and a deep red Texas special election with a 32-point swing to the Democrats. People sometimes talk as if authoritarians can simply ignore public opinion, but even dictators need to worry when they lose legitimacy. And Trump isn't a dictator yet. That's right, he's a would-be dictator. And this is absolutely true. Dictators can only hold on to power if the people are in support, right? When they lose the popular support and they organize in mass sustained resistance, a dictator will not be able to stay in power. His path to absolute power is greatly complicated by the fact that large portions of the electorate loathe him. A recent poll showed 47% of the electorate strongly disapproves of him and are willing to crawl over broken glass to vote against him and his party. That's such an important point. It's not just how many people dislike him, it's how many people are activated to get him out of office, to get his fascist Republican Party out of office in the midterms. Gerrymandering was Trump's first and best effort to steal the 2026 midterms, and that effort has largely foundered on the big, ugly rock of mass Trump hatred. Trump's initial plan was to push through an unprecedented mid-century partisan gerrymander, capitalizing on the fact that the Supreme Court had gutted the Voting Rights Act and signaled that disenfranchising non-white voters is fine and dandy with the robed racist Christo-fascists in charge. Initially, the plan seemed to be going well. The Texas GOP passed a massive partisan gerrymander in the summer of 2025 that is expected to, unfortunately, gain five seats for Republicans in the House. The thing is, though, that was supposed to be just the beginning, right? Other red states were supposed to follow suit. Trump and the GOP were counting on the fact that most blue states have passed anti-gerrymandering legislation, making it difficult for blue states to retaliate. But they underestimated just how unpopular the gerrymanders and Trump himself would be, and not solely with Democrats. Blue California quickly passed a ballot initiative allowing the state to create its own gerrymander, picking up 5 seats and canceling out all of Texas's effort. Then Indiana Republicans balked at drawing their own gerrymander, in part because it was unpopular with their mostly GOP constituents. We heard that Mike Pence was a big part of the effort in preventing that gerrymander from going through. And right afterward, Mike Pence's think tank pulled off, I think it was 11 or 12 members of the Heritage Foundation. They all jumped ship and went to go work for Mike Pence. Republicans are not united, y'all. They're not united. They're not all on board with what is happening. Okay. Then Virginia, a formerly purple state which saw a sweeping Democratic victory in 2025 in reaction to Trump, has drawn up their extremely partisan Democratic gerrymander. Other red states like Missouri have gerrymandered Trump a seat or two here and there, but according to pollster G. Elliott Morris, Trump creating the incentive and permission structure for Democrats to do insane 2010-era gerrymandering of their own may turn out to be one of the biggest self-owns of all times. Dems are now pretty likely to emerge with an advantage from this redistricting war. Again, the reason Democrats have been able to fight back so effectively is because Trump support cratered, and intense anti-Trump sentiment has been overwhelming. Blue state voters are eager to crush Republican power and have voted away anti-gerrymandering barriers. Republicans, in contrast, have not been especially motivated to fight for gerrymanders in places like Indiana. I think this is a crucial difference between Trump and other would-be autocrats as they are seeking to cement their power. They need a certain amount of popular support in order to be able to do it. And Trump just doesn't have that. And not only that, he has a very activated, very motivated opposition. It's that double punch. The base has dropped out of his support, and the opposition is highly motivated and growing rapidly. An additional fear is that gerrymanders may backfire. GOP gerrymanders are designed to reduce margins in very red districts in order to create more safe Republican districts. But in a situation where you are getting 30-point swings toward Democrats, no Republican district is safe. One concern in Indiana may have been that gerrymandering would allow Democrats to pick up more rather than fewer seats given the approaching blue wave. Yeah, I've talked about that before, how gerrymandering actually weakens solidly red districts in order to turn blue or purple districts red. Analysts believe Republicans may find they don't get as many pickups as they expected, even in Texas, thanks to the collapse of GOP support. More, with Democrats currently at a +5 on the generic ballot, they have a clear path to control the chamber, even with GOP tampering. One model suggests that with a 5-point lead, Democrats can expect to pick up 26 seats. They currently are in a situation where Republicans only have a 4-seat majority, and we're about to see another Republican from Florida resign. Gerrymandering is noxious, but it's legal and the rules around it are well established and accepted. They shouldn't be. It was by far the easiest way for Trump to cheat his way to victory in the midterms. His failure here has been a major blow to him and a major win for democracy. All his other schemes are much riskier. Having lost on gerrymandering, Trump and the GOP have now turned to voter suppression. The biggest measure here is the SAVE Act, a monstrous act on democracy which requires that the people show proof of citizenship at the polls. It is likely to disenfranchise 21 million people. They also mandate reckless voter roll purges and allow the prosecution of election officials who make mistakes in good faith, encouraging poll workers to disenfranchise voters to protect themselves from prosecution. So we saw that Republicans in the House just pushed through their altered version of the SAVE Act, and it has gone to the Senate, where we are hearing that there's no fucking way that it's going to pass the gerrymander. There's no way that they could get past the 60 vote threshold and pass it. Earlier today, Leah from Indivisible said that she wasn't super worried about the SAVE Act. So far-right Republicans are trying to get rid of the filibuster so they can pass this with a simple majority, but Republican leadership in the Senate, John Thune, etc., they don't want to dismantle the filibuster. But let's be clear here, House and plenty of Senate Republicans, they are totally fine with outright voter suppression. They need to cheat to win, and they're really anxious to cheat. Noah goes on to explain that if by some miracle this SAVE Act does get passed into law, there are still several ways that it could potentially backfire really badly for Republicans. Okay, lots more there. Go read it for yourself. Jumping down. With gerrymandering and voter suppression looking less and less likely to be effective, the Republicans are left with the 2020 insurrection remedies: ginned up lawsuits and naked violence, either at the polls or afterward in a coup attempt. There's no doubt that Trump would like to try a replay of 2020. The FBI's raid on a Georgia election center to seize records related to the 2020 election was a clear sign that Trump wants to push more fake voter fraud claims. And of course, as noted above, Trump's been muttering about federalizing elections or canceling them altogether. Part of the reason Trump was able to get as far as he did in the 2020 coup was that the vote was fairly close, so he could concentrate his intimidation efforts on a handful of states like Georgia and Arizona. Okay, please listen carefully to this next part, because I think it's going to take the temperature way down for a lot of folks. I really appreciated what Noah had to say here, and I agree with his perspective. By take the temperature down, I don't mean that it's going to help you check out. I don't mean take your foot off the gas. I don't mean rest on your laurels, right? We need to stay incredibly focused. We need to anticipate that fascists are going to try fascist shit, that this is a desperate regime that will do anything to hold on to power. Take the temperature down does not mean let your guard down, okay? Two entirely different things. And we got to be on top of everything right now, but we can't be in a state of tremendous anxiety and letting that cause us to spin out, right? We need to take the temperature down so that we can stay focused and do the work that needs to be done. Okay, so when he tried his 2020 coup, it was just him running, and it was just a narrow margin in a few states. He really focused on Georgia and Arizona for his attacks, for his coup. This sort of narrow focus is going to be much harder in a congressional election, and much, much harder in a congressional election where Democrats win by 20 seats or more. Even if Trump did somehow, some way cancel elections, he wouldn't have a GOP majority. So far, 30 GOP members are retiring in anticipation of a blue wave, and only 21 Democrats are. In a House with no new members, that would mean a narrow Democratic majority for 2026. I realize this is my privilege living in Oregon, where we have 2 Democratic senators. Only Jeff Merkley is up for re-election, and there's not going to be an attempt to prevent him from getting re-elected and seated. So I didn't really think about this scenario that Noah lays out here. The Senate is likely to be much closer, and it's quite easy to imagine Trump trying to steal a crucial, narrowly won Ohio seat from Sherrod Brown with the help of a complicit state party in order to prevent Democratic control of the Senate. And whoo doggy, the state party in Ohio. Ohio is, 1, gerrymandered all to shit, and 2, there's an awful lot of corrupt Republicans in Ohio. Just going to take this opportunity here to once again ask Ohio State, why the hell is Les Wexner's name still on the front of your medical center? Knowing all that we know now, why do you still have his name proudly displayed on your building? Back to the article. It's also pretty easy to imagine Trump sending armed federal gunmen to arrest local officials who refuse to comply with Ohio Republicans, or to arrest Senator-elect Sherrod Brown himself. These are nightmare scenarios, and it's very, very bad that they are plausible. Unfortunately, Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, they all know that they're going to go to prison if they don't rig this election, if they don't stay in power. And so they are willing to do anything and everything. I think we should expect all kinds of irrational, extreme Hail Mary attempts from the Republicans to illegally maintain their power. Pretty standard operating procedure from a would-be autocrat, because accountability is coming, justice is coming if they lose their grip on power. So they're going to pull out all the stops. This scenario here that Noah lays out, I think he's right. It's plausible. And looking post midterms, right? After the election results are in, but before those members of Congress have been sworn in and seated, there's that gap where clearly the mandate from the people will be for Democrats and against Republicans. A solidly blue vote across the board is going to send a huge message, not only to those pillars of support under Trump, but also the folks in his party, right? It's important to remember that Trump's position after a blue wave will have been eroded even more. His intra-party support is likely to be at an all-time low, and his room for maneuver to be much more circumscribed. Can he count on state party support in those circumstances? Will he have that many allies willing to back him? Along the same line, ICE's popularity is in freefall, and the idea of using ICE agents to patrol polling booths is very unpopular. That creates the possibility for backlash and means that Republican polls at the state level are likely to be leery of deploying federal thugs in this way. There's no guarantee, but it's a better place to be than we were in early 2025 when support for ICE was, unfortunately, relatively high. Violence is a response to an inability to win popular support, but violence also depends in part on a certain level of legitimacy, as Trump discovered in his first coup. And earlier today in a hearing, Senator Alyssa Slotkin questioned ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons about ICE at the polls, and he had to admit under oath there is no reason for immigration agents to be at voting sites. Noah concludes, I am not in any way saying here that people shouldn't worry. People should absolutely worry. Trump is a terrifying fascist authoritarian, and our democracy right now looks very fragile. And I think that's that balance. If you just sit and you worry, if you just sit and you marinate in your fear and your anxiety, rather than taking action to stop this, what have you done? The regime wants our worry and our fear and our anxiety to paralyze us, to cause us to give up, to not organize and resist. We have to have that balance. We have to remember that the propaganda, the rhetoric from the regime says that they are all powerful, they are successful in every way, they are winning, and that we can't stop them. That's a bunch of bullshit. Remember, every time Kristi Noem opens her mouth, she just spews out lies. Any kind of any kind of messaging from the regime, any kind of confident bluster from the regime. Don't believe any of it. If they're saying something to you, it is propaganda meant to manipulate you. It is not the truth. So you've got to know that when they're out there fronting like they're all big and powerful and winning and popular and they can do whatever they want, that it's complete and utter bullshit. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be worried, because what they are relying on is everyone's acquiescence. What they're relying on is people being cynical and jaded and not taking action, or being scared shitless and giving up. The thing that allows the fascists to win is our inaction, is us staying home either because we don't give a shit and we're apathetic, or because we're scared into believing that we've already lost. So we do need to worry. We need to worry about mobilizing our fellow Americans, activating our fellow Americans, bringing them in and getting them plugged into this work, because it is going to require all of us in mass mobilization to defend our rights and to defend free and fair elections. First of all, to get out at the polls and vote, and then to defend the election results. It requires all of us. My worry is about apathy and inaction. It's not actually so much what the Trump regime is doing, because they're full of hot air. They're trying all of these pathetic, desperate acts to hold on to power. They will go to extremes. They will do every extreme thing they possibly can, because losing is something that they cannot bear, because it means justice will come for them. Fascists are going to do fascist shit. They are predictable. We know that they're going to try everything. Our job now is to organize and stop it. And so as long as we know that, like, hey, actually, they're not all powerful. They haven't won. The things that they're doing reek of fucking desperation, because they're really fucking desperate. That gives us the ability to bring our anxiety down and to realize that we have agency in this moment. When they ramp your anxiety up, it makes it much harder to tap into the truth that you have agency. You have will, you have some measure of control. There are actions you can take, and those actions are extremely effective at stopping fascism, right? We can stop this on so many levels. We already have struck back successfully, but we can't let off the gas. We can't now rest on our laurels in any way, or be apathetic, or like dial it back. We have to be really, really vigilant in this moment. Okay, I didn't mean to pop off there. Let me read Noah's last paragraph. There is, though, massive popular disgust with and opposition to Trumpism. The giant orange asshole is less powerful than he was in early 2025. I agree with that. It's quite possible he'll be less powerful than that after the elections in November. Oh, definitely. Definitely he'll be less powerful. The more he does, the more people hate him. It's not just that he's less popular, it's that he's activating people against him. People fucking hate what he's doing because it's fascism. There's already been a great deal of effective resistance to his attack on elections. There's every reason to believe that effective resistance will continue and that it can prevail. Yep, and the resistance will prevail because of the work that we're doing now. It's not just that we hope we will win, we are working to win. We are organizing, we are building our strength, and we are taking actions, and we will be successful.